Welcome to Koffee Talks, a Pokémon card collecting podcast with Dan Norton and David Person.
Hey everyone, welcome back. It is Koffee Talks once again. David, how's your week been?
Thank you for asking, Dan. God, this has become routine and mundane.
It has, hasn't it? Do you have anything to say? Anything about your week at all?
Well, Dan, nothing about my week. Move right on. I've got so much other things to say about other things that I've got other things in my mind I'm going to say in another way very shortly.
All right, well, if you want to say any of that stuff during the intro, go ahead. What have you got to say?
I'd like to say that I've got some good news, Dan. The first thing I want to say is that I went to GameStop. I just walked over there. I'd finished a dinner. There was a shop nearby. I walked in and I said, "You guys got that Tinkaton promo?" And the guy goes, he looks in the drawer, he says, "Yeah." And he handed it to me.
Nice.
So, Dan, that was it. That was my best. That's as good as it gets for me, a $4 card or whatever that somebody actually handed to me without any purchase necessary. Anybody watching the previous video of ours will understand why that's relevant. Hopefully they'll go back and binge watch. Right, Dan?
Hopefully, yeah. All right. Other thing to say during the intro today is we're actually going to start trying to do proper sections and stuff of this podcast to make it flow a bit nicer, make sure you guys are getting a bit more, information, having a good time. So you will be seeing actual sections starting from this week.
Segments, compartmentalization, trying to make it go fast and furious, right, Dan?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, Dan, I'm still in my first introductory comments, though. We have a full 5 minutes for that. I've got a couple more things. After my good news about my Tinkaton promo, I want to tell people my bad news, and I might have kind of alluded to it last week. I have been sorting my card sets and trying to do catch up, and the one thing I'm missing, folks, I cannot believe I'm missing something that I cannot find at this moment in time, is the Diamond and Pearl Stormfront Reverse Holo set. Which of you guys has a Diamond and Pearl Reverse Holo Stormfront set of cards, Diamond Pearl Stormfront Reverse Holo set, that you might need to be parting with because you don't want it anymore, and you can help Uncle Dave and help him get that set complete? So anybody you know, any of your friends you know, want to do a trade or something, work it out, because that's not an easy set for me to find. If I don't find it, let me know. And now the big news, Dan. I did the good news, the bad news, and now the big news. Dan, here it is. Dan, if you're following the news these days, we've got a big deal as far as Elon Musk and Zuckerberg potentially having a cage match, an MMA fighting cage match between two of the technology titans, and to see who is the going to be the reigning champ. And I think I need to get involved in that, Dan. So I'd like to put it out there. I would like to put myself out there. I will go into severe training for a 62-year-old with bad knees. And who do you want me, guys? Who should I fight, guys? Who should I fight? Should I fight King Gary? Should I fight Unlisted Leaf? Should I fight Dan? Who should I fight, guys? Let me know. I think we need to do this. I think we need to blow this up in the hobby. I'm willing to put myself out there. My family knows it's at great risk to myself. I'm probably going to die, but it's worth it just to get a few more views, a few more likes, a few more subscriptions, and we're going to all help Dan in the end, okay? So, Dan, any feedback? Would you like to see me do that?
You do what you want. I will tell you that Musk and Zuckerberg fight is never going to happen. But
Dan, they're trying to organize it. Dana White is trying to make it happen, okay? Just to let you know. So,
who is going to ensure that fight?
Okay, and guess what? It doesn't matter if it happens, because think about all the publicity, okay?
Yeah, that's it. Oh, that's it. It's so much publicity leading up to it, and then they never have to do it.
Okay, so let's do that. I'm going after King Gary, okay? Enough of him being the king. Sorry, Gare. You know what? Sometimes you got to step up. We're doing this. Right. There's going to be a cage match. Step up. Go ahead, Dan.
All right, we'll get some publicity around you and Gary fighting, and then both of you will go to your pre-match medical interviews, and every doctor on the planet will tell you that there is no way either of you two are stepping into a ring, is what will happen.
Well, maybe I could use it, because I was planning on using the Cold Stone Stunner, or whatever the heck you said, okay?
All right.
Okay.
All right. Well, that was a successful first intro section. Should we move on to some comments?
Yes, it's time.
Let's take a look at your comments.
All right, comments. Our first comment on last week's video was from Shadowless Jack. Just says, "Yes, sir," and 3 arm pumping emojis. Thank you, Jack. Hope you enjoyed.
Sometimes it's the things you don't say that mean all the difference. Thanks, Jack.
Our next one is from Laura, my wife. She said, first of all, David, what was your verdict on Memento? Did you enjoy that movie when you watched it?
Okay, I'm not commenting on that yet. I've got a special video plan just around Memento. I'm not there yet. Let it
Okay.
go, Laura. I promise I don't forget. An elephant never forgets.
All right. She also said the Pokemon Go tournaments are run on double elimination bracket, not Swiss. I thought they were run on Swiss. I said that last week. Apparently, it's run double elimination, so you play until you've lost 2 matches and then you're out. She says that she doesn't think the regional Pokemon are banned, but she's not totally sure on that. And Unite is on Switch or mobile, when I said I didn't know what console it was on. Last part of our comment, the Professor promo Kamado that we talked about last week. I mentioned my friend Rodell got one. She said that was sent out to professors that contributed videos on Professor University, first of all. And then obviously Laura got one last week at NAIC, but that first release was for people who made content for Professor University. And she also says, while she's correcting me, last week I said that our Prius was a 2007, but it was actually a 2006. The one that
she takes so much pride in correcting you. It's so much fun.
She really, really enjoys it.
Yes.
Next, we have Mr. Pelavakis said, dude, David's hilarious. He's like, although I gotta say, Dan, I've become pretty tolerant of you, which is a thing you did, in fact, say about me last week. And it seems to have been
I don't know, Dan. You know that a lot of these, because these are getting so long and repetitive for me, I've begun to drink before them a lot. And some of this, what's in the can is not what it's supposed to be. So sorry for anything I said that I didn't realize I said, Dan.
I mean, you would have said it sober, but it's fine.
Yeah, good point.
Next, we have The Old Card Shop says, the back and forth bickering, the odd couple comment really got me this time. Great podcast, guys. Keep them coming.
The bickering's my favorite part, Dan. Don't piss me off because I've got a lot more bickering things to say to you soon.
I mean, I think a lot of people enjoy it, so.
I do.
Steve Jackson says, the damaged promos don't surprise me. I've heard Worlds cards tend to not always have the best quality control. That is true. I will say for the NAIC promos, which is what we were talking last week about the fact that they were damaged, they didn't actually give these damaged ones out. The staffs, the top 8s, and the champions, it's not like they gave out damaged ones and are going to replace them. They've just said they will be sent out at a later date. The World's quality control stuff is sometimes when you see World's promos get given out and they're not always the best. Often because the top cards, they don't give you sleeved or anything. They're just in a little box altogether. So the cards might get printed fine and then they throw them in a box and they get a little bit damaged.
I can't wait for Pokemon to say how many cards. Well, they're going to send all this stuff, and then for people to say they didn't receive them, and are they going to have them signed for delivery, and how many things they're going to be double and triple sent just because of all of the problems they've had in this distribution process. So,
honestly, my thought is it's probably that they will mail out the top 8 and champions, and then with staff, they will just tell staff they can pick it up at a future event that they staff, because they've done that before. I think it was, again, talking about NAIC promos, one of the first ones, I think one of the double colorless energies, maybe they didn't get staffs given out in time. They didn't have the staffs printed in time, or they got damaged, something like that again. So they didn't have them there for the staff at the event, and they just had staff have to get them at a future event rather than mailing them out. So I think there's a good chance that's what will happen with the staff ones.
Yeah.
Next comment, Cyber X Collection, winner of last week's giveaway, says, no way, seriously, I won. Dreams do come true. Thank you, guys. Curiosity question for the podcast. If you know, are there any Spanish exclusive promo or illustration Pokemon cards? The only Spanish exclusive one I know of is the Kecleon from the Art Academy contest. I believe that's the only Spanish exclusive card. I can't think of any more off the top of my head.
But of course, Laura, weigh in when Dan's wrong. Let us know what the real answer is. And anybody who's willing to comment on the podcast, let Dan know what the real answer is as well.
He says, maybe something for future podcasts, talking about exclusive promos, illustration cards from different countries, probably excluding Japan, because Japan has thousands of cards, which have exclusive artwork that we didn't get in English. Just keep on awesome content. Yeah, that's definitely something we can put on the short list, is trying to pull up different things where other languages might have had exclusive artworks or anything like that. Would you be happy with that as a possible topic at some point in the future, David?
You know what? If Steve Jackson suggests it, I'm up for anything.
He didn't. It was CyberX Collection who suggested it.
Well, you know what? If CyberX Collection... Are you sure it was CyberX? What happened to Steve Jackson?
Steve Jackson talked about the damaged promos. We talked about that.
We moved on to past that already? We're already to CyberX and stuff? My goodness, guys. You know what? They might be the same person. I'm afraid that Steve Jackson and CyberX Collection are actually the same person, like Laura has 47 different YouTube type of identification symbols.
All right, well, we can start that rumor if you want. Next
Thanks.
comment
Sorry, guys.
is
Sorry, guys. I respect you both, and I love you both for your continued participation and loyalty.
next comment from Craig says, seeing all the tournament promos makes me want to go through my binders and see what I have for myself. Definitely a good idea. I had a quick look through mine after the last podcast. I'm not missing too many, but I need to try and pick up a couple. It says, I know I have some, but I don't think I have any featured in the podcast. Pretty sure I have some Cities cards and other random cross-hatch promos. I mean, the Cities cards are nice too. It's a nice, cheaper, easier collection to get if you're just trying to go for something like that and don't want to grab the national stuff straight away.
I myself am a little concerned why Craig, number one, isn't going through his binders more often. You put that kind of time and effort and money into a collection, open it up every once in a while. I may not do that, but you really should be doing it. Do as I say, not as I do. And at this point, I am so blown away. I'm afraid of like conspiracy theory. I think Craig may actually be Steve Jackson, may actually be CyberX Collection. I think there's only one person watching and commenting on all of our podcasts, and it's all of these people all in one.
Well, if that was true, then thank you to that person, I guess.
And they're obviously watching over and over and over again. So
Obviously.
Please keep it up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Next comment, Pokey Power Up says entertaining and informative as usual. Thank you. Then we have Pokey Nia says, question for you both, how do you feel about collecting vintage sealed Pokemon games? I find that they give me a ton more nostalgic enjoyment than what my cards do, since they're what sparked my original love in Pokemon. I have a lot of vintage Pokemon games, and I have a lot of vintage video games in general. Never sealed, though. If I'm getting vintage games, I'm wanting to boot up one of our vintage consoles and actually play them.
Yeah, that's when I read that comment. I never played any video games because really I was caged. I was a very bad child. My parents had me caged up for most of the time. So there was no technology back in the day. I'm the old guy in the podcast. But the thing about video games is, if they're vintage, can you really still play them? Can you, collecting them, having them in there? I'm not sure that would do it for me. I'd like to actually go and play them. It's sort of like the cards. Every time you open them, you're essentially playing them in some way. There's so much to view and see. Looking at a video game itself wouldn't do that for me. But, if that is how you got your, your inspiration and your entry to the hobby, then that makes a lot of sense to me because it just resonates with you from a heart standpoint. So, I'm okay with that. I like that.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those things that we wouldn't do, but we're not against anyone else doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I would always want to be playing. I couldn't help myself. I'd always be opening them.
Yeah.
Pokemon Matt is here, said, David was on fine form this episode. The nip slip was comedy gold of all the things I would have expected to. On this podcast, blurred nudity was not on that calling card. Yeah, believe me, Matt. I was not happy about having to deal with that. Imagine watching it 3 times.
Listen, what bothers me is there are mistakes that happen, okay? But to put a throw up emoji in front of it, Laura, come on, have a little compassion, all right? That's ridiculous. And by the way, guess what, folks? I got some big news for you. The only ones that have nip slips are celebrities. So I think I've made it there. I think I'm now in the group. I'm now in the definition, all right? Thank you.
I will also say I didn't subject Laura to that. Laura does some of the artwork for the episodes, but I put everything on, so I didn't make her sit through watching your nip slip to cover it up. I did that cover
Confessions of a bad friend. # confessions. See, now the truth comes out. I'm so glad we did the podcast. I can find out what the hell's really going on.
Definitely. We next have Catch-A-More Collectibles says, slight underproduction is the profit maximizing strategy for Pokemon. Overproduction can be deadly. Having things that are exclusive, not everyone can get, then makes them things that makes everyone want them. They can certainly do better things, but love it or hate it, the reality is that everyone getting everything is never the optimal solution for the bottom line. Assuming this is talking about the Pokemon Center and their limited stock that we mentioned about in the NAIC episode last week, I would definitely agree that, yeah, I understand why everyone getting everything that they want isn't perfect and creates other problems. I just really feel that going that limited on a bit, the backpacks, like I say, was the big item, caused way more problems than just having a slightly larger stock. Like, if they had just had enough stock for those first couple of timed appointments, it would have saved a lot more hassle throughout the day. Because as I said, with those timed appointments, the first appointment was at 8 o'clock, but people were queuing up from 3:30. If they'd even just had enough stock for those 8 o'clock appointments, people would have got there at 7:30 if it was just known that that's what they had. So it was 4 more hours of people having to queue up, 4 more hours of staff from the Pokemon Center and from the convention center having to be around dealing with people. That, I think, I totally agree that there are reasons for Pokemon not to make it so that every single person at that event could buy every single product, but it was just too underproduced. It caused way more issues.
So I respect and understand Catch 'em All Collectibles comment. The problem is, I don't think there's any specifically targeted marketing plan with this company. I think it ends up being a flying by the seat of your pants. It's kind of what you're saying, Dan. It is not limited. 30 or 60 or 100 is not limited. It's ridiculous. And
Yeah.
where does that extend to? What other products? Do we just say you print as many cards as possible in every single release, but we're just going to have one backpack that's limited? Is it just the Pokemon Center ETBs exclusives that are going to be limited? There's no rhyme nor reason to what they do with respect to limited edition prints or less edition, less distribution prints. And now, with 9 billion cards or whatever we've said in previous podcasts that they're printing over, all things, there's no concerted strategy. That's clear. So I don't know. I get it. If you could make limited edition, if you can draw a bunch of attention because you have a magic one Lord of the Ring or whatever that card was.
Yeah.
Why is it that I don't remember anything from one podcast to another? Because, David, it's not important. These are just podcasts. You've got a life to live. Okay, don't talk to yourself on screen. We're talking to Dan. It's his podcast. Shut up. I'm going to try right now. And that's it, Dan. I don't think there's any, real type of consistent plan. It's just flying by the seat of their pants. They make a lot of mistakes. Maybe it looks limited because of that, but I don't believe it was intentional.
Yeah, I think if they'd had some sort of marketing strategy, I can't imagine them deliberately making at least the backpack that limited.
You and your backpack, man. Somebody
Well,
buy Dan a damn backpack. Can somebody find that backpack and find out? I'm going to start a GoFundMe for the $30 backpack that I got to spend $150 for to pick up for Dan. Oh, no, wait a minute. I can't pick up one for Dan because I got to buy one for Laura, too. Forget it. I just you guys work it out. DM me, climb into my DMs. We'll work out a plan to do something healthy for the couple of Nortons out there.
I'm sure we'll be able to get one. It's fine. All right, next comment, or next 2 comments are both from Potato Pack. Says, the name Potato Pack comes from the constant tears I generate after cracking Pokemon packs with 0 hits. And to give myself a sense of inner worth after each of these woeful packs, I have named these dud non-hit Pokemon packs as Potato Packs, and that makes me smile. And then they said, bonus comment, the love between these 2 dudes reminds me of the love stories on Twilight.
Just a great, my favorite comment this week. I got to have one because I am so woefully unlucky when it comes to any of this kind of stuff. So I've had, after your comment, Potato Pack, Potato Head, Potato Sack, whatever the heck your name is, I have had my family call me Potato Dad this entire week because I'm such an ultimate loser. All right. And I'm not saying you are a loser. You kind of are when it comes to picking pack luck. But you know what? That's I'm on your side. Definitely, I'm a potato dud when it comes to this kind of stuff, too. So tremendous empathy for you, Potato Pack, sir.
All right, next comment from Tommy Vu. I'm assuming that's Vu, could be VU. Enjoyed the video on talk. Keep them coming. Another nice short comment there.
Yeah, Tommy and a couple of others responded to my last minute Instagram story about getting in on the videos and getting in on the last second for the drawing. So thank you. We appreciate that very much.
Our next comment is from Maverick Nate from Bulbapedia. We talked about Bulbapedia a bit, and we talked about Nathan a bit last week. Nathan left this comment shortly after having a 40-minute phone call with me and Laura as we were driving around yesterday. But Nathan says, love the episode. I laugh harder every week. Not to make you talk about Bulbapedia for the 3rd week in a row, but I felt obligated to answer some questions. First thing, exclusive insider trick for Coffee Talk listeners. If you have an account on Bulbapedia and browse while logged in, there are no ads for logged in users. So if you're sick of the ads on Bulbapedia, if you make an account and log in, then you don't see any of those. He confirms there's no compensation. Everyone has their own reasons for contributing. And some of mine at this point are maintaining soft skills like content creation, project management, and translating that I'd like to use in the future. I also feel a bit obligated to continue at this point, similar to how David feels obligated to continue his card collection. Otherwise, data collection and research is just its own hobby that people enjoy. It says, finally, if anyone finds any incorrect information, please go and change it. The wiki really is for everyone, by everyone, so don't be afraid to take that first step to helping the community. I also say, if it's not something you want to do, if you don't like the idea of changing it, if you message me or the podcast in some way, I can look into it and I can at the very least get the information over to Nathan to fix. He says, my unsolicited PSA is now finished. Thanks for listening. I'll also say on the phone call we had, Nathan talked about how, because he was away from Bulbapedia for about 5 years, he's having to go through and very slowly fix up a lot of stuff from the past 5 years. So I know he is working on improving it a lot.
It was very kind, Nate. Thank you. Maverick Nate, thank you for taking the time to write all of that. It meant a lot. It was very informative. I read it and I thought, it makes it worthwhile to that kind of comment when we're doing these podcasts, because it really was a tremendous learning opportunity for me just to hear your commentary from behind the scenes. And you did give a nice trick to the Coffee Talk listeners about how to avoid those ads. So just, thanks again for taking the time.
All right, just a couple more comments. Next, we have Roland, who says, hi, David. Dan said he aims to bring you cards back from Worlds this year. Just wondering, why aren't you going to Worlds as well? And as a side note, another excellent podcast. Great stuff. So, David, do you want to explain just briefly why you are not going to be making it to Worlds this year?
Yeah, it's harder for me to get out of the country, especially this year. Our son is going to be going to school. My son has ADHD and autism. But we're still on a path to trying to get him to the NBA, the first autistic player to do that. So he's doing well in that area. But in this minute, he's going to start a new school. He hasn't been in school for many years with the pandemic, doing virtual school. So all kind of coincided. Early August is his time frame, and we need to be here for him. So it's not going to be possible this year. But I'm going to put my my hopes and dreams in the capable hands of Dan Norton and a lot of other nice friends that help out, and see what happens. So thank you for asking.
We had some pretty decent success last year when you weren't there. We got 3 out of the 4 trophies. There were at least discussions and things put in place while we were at Worlds. I know I only brought 1 of the 4 home, but we got 3 of them in pretty quick succession after that.
Yeah, and a lot of people are relieved I'm not going. I think a lot of people are just better. They don't take a look at me, just work behind the scenes, but not without having to actually deal with me in person can be a great advantage. So
honestly, our biggest thing this year is going to be that time difference, because I think Japan's about 12 hours out from where you are. So we're going to have to figure something out for potentially me being able to make the payments on your behalf. But we'll talk about that off camera, I think, in the coming weeks.
all right, Dan, if they could join your Patreon, I'll give them a lot of secrets on how we deal with that 12-hour time difference, okay?
Sure. You'll have to give me the secrets first. All right. Final comment is your average player says David just gets more fun in ×2 speed. Another person who is choosing to watch the podcast twice as fast to get through double the amount of episodes in the same amount of time.
Yeah, I'm actually watching it in 4 times speed now, just to challenge myself to begin to even dislike myself more. So thank you. I've taken those suggestions and just really ramped them up. And Dan, when you're ready, I don't know if you've got any more, but I've actually got one more comment I want to throw in there that somebody sent to me personally.
Well, I'm done, so if you want to share that one.
Okay. So this one says, this one is from Craig Holmes. And he says, podcast is wonderful, but would be better if it was just you alone and not Dan. Oh, wait a minute. It didn't say that, Dan. I'm sorry. I must have read something wrong. This is what Craig Holmes said. He said 151, random Mew fact. That was our number last week.
Yeah.
151. Game Freak programmer Shigeki Morimoto programmed Mew into the game secretly as a prank amongst the staff just prior to its release in Japan. Though not intended by the developers to be obtainable, due to a glitch, players were able to encounter it. That is a fantastic comment, informative comment. I always love learning that stuff because I've never lost my love of lifelong learning, even in my advanced age. But thank you, Craig, for taking the time. Dan, did you know that? I know you did, but did you know that?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Dan,
Yeah.
it's not any fun with you. What don't you know, okay? I'm going to renew my library card, and you can tell me some more places and things I need to know.
All right.
So, who won last week's giveaway?
So, as you'll have heard in the comments, last week, CyberX Collection was the winner of our weekly giveaway. So, David, are you ready to announce who won this week, as well as telling people how to enter next week?
Yes, I really am. Thanks to all of you who've continued to follow, listen to our podcast, know the secret number that I divulged during the podcast. Send me a direct message in my Instagram, giving me that number and anything else you'd like to tell me. And this week's winner, I'm more than excited. I couldn't be so excited. I'm so excited that I don't even know how to express my excitement in a more excited way. And the winner is Steve Jackson. The random number generator did him right this week. Steve Jackson is this week's winner. Again, I tell you guys, please keep entering. There are not a lot of participants, which means your odds are, very strong. You might have a good chance at winning. I will send you out a card. I haven't sent CyberX Collections yet because I can't worry about it. CyberX Collection. I know your real name. I'm not going to divulge it on the screen without a signed release, but guys, I'm not in any rush to get these gifts out to you guys. And last week, I'm going to tell you something that was really interesting. Dan actually thought he was going to get around me. I saw 4 entries from people he thought I didn't know were him. They were all him. And I tell him every time, friends and family are not eligible, but he doesn't listen. So anyway, Steve Jackson, congratulations. This next week, the number is 54. Our friend, your friend, my friend, Dan, do you know what number that is?
I actually don't, off the top of my head, know what Pokemon 54 is.
Okay, because the number, Dan, I said, did you know what the number is? And I already said what it was. It was 54, Dan. You should have been listening. But the character, if I'd asked you, which you didn't know, is Psyduck, our friend, the duck. I love him. So, guys, it's 54. Get it to me, and maybe you'll join the ranks of Alex Bajeris, CyberX Collection, and Steve Jackson as a winner in our weekly drawings.
And when he says get it to him, you have to DM him that number on Instagram at dperson1 and also leave a comment on the video, and that's how you enter the giveaway.
You got it. And I did got a nice message from Alex Bajeris, who got his first the first winning week's card this week, and said thank you very much, and he really appreciated what I sent him. So that was nice. I either send a card or I'll send something like a sweet. Sometimes I send a pack of ding dongs or ho-hos, depending on whether or not I can find a card that week.
Amazing.
It's time to play Trainer Deck A or Trainer Deck B.
All right, that is going to bring us on to our next regular section of the week, the one that you guys love and that I hate. It's Trainer Deck A or B, where David is going to just pose me some absolutely nonsensical either-or questions.
That's it. That pretty much describes it. Yeah, thanks, Dan. Thanks for continuing to play along despite the previous lacerations that have been administered all over your body. Dan, 10 seconds for your answers. Explain or don't explain. That's up to you. Should you extend greater than 10 seconds or give me some answer that makes no sense, you could be disqualified from the game by a Pokemon judge that will magically appear and judge you quite harshly. Are you ready to go?
Sure.
All right. Dan, fork, spoon, or knife?
Fork.
Spray or gel, Dan?
Gel for both deodorant and my hair.
Boy, I love these because people just get to know you so well.
They do.
Dan, television or radio?
Television. If I'm sitting down to actually enjoy something, I always want it to be on the TV. I do listen to, some music and podcasts quite a lot, but that is often when I'm working on other stuff. TV is when I just want to sit down and actually relax.
That was I'm going like 11 seconds. I'm going to let that one pass, though. By the way, Dan, music is the greatest thing in the world and the greatest thing entirety of all life. So I'm not sure that you picked the right answer, but I'm glad it works for you. Dan, sweatshirt or hoodie?
Hoodie, but generally I don't wear either just because I'm normally really warm all of the time anywhere I am.
I've seen your hair and your beard, Dan. There's no reason not for you to be other than perpetually warm. Makes sense. Dan, infamy or intimacy?
Let's go infamy, and let's not go into any detail on that one.
Yes, I knew which one you would choose. That made sense for you. Sorry, Laura. Dan, intensity or assertiveness?
Intensity, We'll go really, really intense with stuff.
Dan, esoteric or abstruse?
Esoteric, because I listen to another podcast weekly called Loopholes, and they talk about esoteric stuff all the time.
Dan, secondary or tertiary?
Let's go secondary, because it's closer to primary, and in terms of like information and stuff, primary is always the best, so we'll go secondary.
Dan, candy canes, candy corns, or syrup?
Syrup, probably. I mean, I don't really eat candy canes or candy corn at all, but I put syrup on pancakes, so.
Do you know what those things are, Dan? Do you know what candy canes, candy corns, or syrup are?
I didn't realize that like candy was the first option before candy corns, but yeah, I mean, candy is just the generic term for all sweets. Candy corns are the Christmassy things. Candy corn is the Halloween thing, and then syrup you put on pancakes. IHOP.
Dan, no. I didn't really ask what they were about. Dan, those are the four main food groups. Those are the four main food groups. And somehow you actually did make the best suggestion. When my wife makes me pancakes or waffles, Dan, I don't even care what's on the plate. As long as there's a bottle of syrup sitting next to me and I can take half the bottle of syrup and pour it on top of whatever I'm eating, I'm going to be a winner, okay? Those are the four main food groups, Dan. Watch the movie Elf. You'll really enjoy it.
I probably would.
Dan, lick a tongue, or lick your chops?
Lick a tongue, because this is a Pokemon podcast. Allegedly.
Sprigatito or Florigato?
Sprigatito. I do normally like the starters quite a lot.
Dan, belly bolt or tummy nut?
Belly bolt, because belly bolt. This is allegedly a Pokemon podcast.
Dan, Rookidee or Ponacee?
Rookidee.
You're only going to pick the first ones.
You're going to
pick the first ones. I know. Okay. Dan, Artisan or Amazon?
Artisan. This is allegedly a Pokemon podcast.
No, but you can buy so many Pokemon cards on Amazon. You're not going through the logistics of this, buddy. You need to stop settling the first answer and put some thought and feeling into the emotions of these answers.
Don't buy Pokemon cards. No, I'm calling you that. Don't buy Pokemon cards from Amazon. Support your local game stores.
Fair enough. I don't buy from them anyways. They never fulfill the orders.
No.
Dan, Faulkner or Steinbeck? Faulkner. It's a Pokemon card contest or podcast, whatever.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know. I was trying to work that thing out. All right, fine. I'll go Steinbeck. Whatever. That's something to do with musicals. That question, I think.
I think it's more just short story writers. I think it's short story writers, Dan. But it's all right. You're watching so much TV, you don't have a clue what's going on in the book world. Dan, I-O no or I-O yes?
I-O no, because that just sounded ridiculous, what you just said there.
Dan, I-O yes or I-O-U?
The second one, because I like when people need to give me stuff.
Dan, I-O no or I-O-U?
I-O-U, fine. How many more of these have you got?
Dan, Frigibacks or back of the fridge?
Frigibacks, because the back of our fridge is disgusting. There's some gone-off sweet corn and a dead fly in there at the minute.
I was trying to find a way of subtly let you know that, so maybe Laura would clean that thing out, although I guarantee she's going to make you do it.
Yep.
Dan, Tinkaton? Tinkatink? I can't even get through it. Dan, let me start again. Dan, just be quiet. Let me get through it, okay? I made myself laugh. Hold on. Dan, Tinkaton, Tinkatink, Tinkatuff, or Tinka, who gives a...
Tinkerton, because I have the GameStop promo is still here next to me. You can have that one. Absolutely unbelievable. We're going to stop this section if you... This is not going to be a regular section if you keep doing this nonsense.
Dan,
unbelievable.
Dan, incendiary measures or legendary treasures?
The legendary treasures. That one is sort of link to what I know the next section is. So I hope to God that's the last question.
All right, Dan. Thanks for playing Trainer A Deck B or Trainer Deck BA or Trainer Deck AB B Deck A. Dan, take us
Unbelievable.
through the next section because here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk. Dan, are you still there right now? All I can see is
Yeah,
like just a picture of you frozen on my screen. Say something.
I'm still here. We're going to go in the next section now.
And now for our highlighted cards of the week.
Okay. So Dan, I don't know. Sometimes you start editing and you cut all this out, and then you make the podcast all about you. But just in case we're still filming, I'm going to keep talking. Dan, so here's what happened. I was looking through my cards and filling my sets. I mentioned I couldn't find my Diamond and Pearl Stormfront reverse hollows in the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah.
But I noticed these subset variant sets, and they're called collections, Radiant collections, and trainer galleries, and shiny vaults. And I started thinking, what is the deal with all this stuff? Why are there so few of them? How many are there? How many different subsets are there? And I thought the only guy that knows these kinds of answers is my good historical buddy, Dan Norton. And so, Dan, Legendary Treasures, good answer. It takes us into this segment. What are we going to talk about this week on our card segment of the podcast?
So, what is going to be the main section of the podcast? Hopefully, we're going to talk about subsets that have existed within regular Pokemon card sets. So, we're not talking about the small sets where the booster packs are all of that tiny set. We're talking about where you get booster packs and they have one set, but then some cards in that booster may be from another subset that goes within that set. I explained that really badly, but I'm sure you know what I mean.
I got nothing.
You got nothing.
You know what? I know you're doing the best you can. Even when you explain something badly, Laura's going to correct it. So we're in good shape.
Yeah. I guess the main differentiation with the subsets is that it will have a completely separate numbering system to the main set. That's what we're looking at here. So David sent me a list of the subsets, and he missed a load of them out. So I'll run through them pretty quickly, and then we'll decide which ones we want to go into a lot more detail on. So the first subset was from back in Unseen Forces. It was the Unknowns. Do you know what that is, David?
Yes, they were like alphabet things that then they had a couple of extras other than the 28 card set, right?
Yep, 28 card set. So Unknown comes in different forms. It has one for every letter of the alphabet, and then a question mark and an exclamation mark. And in Unseen Forces, there was a special subset numbered out of 28, but it was numbered, A out of 28, B out of 28, question mark out of 28. And they replaced the reverse holo in about 1 in every 5 packs for Unseen Forces.
Yeah, I didn't actually send you the unknown sets, Dan. I think that I didn't realize, I didn't start thinking about those back to the vintage the days, like you're probably going to mention, maybe like an H1 to 32 or something else. But yeah, I think from what I've seen, those are pretty hard to come by, even as an intact subset, just because maybe people didn't really collect them that much, and probably the distribution was hard to come by within the packs, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and in terms of, value and stuff, they aren't as valuable as, the EXs and the gold stars and stuff from the same sets. They're not the most desirable things. And the prices seem to be around the same as the regular foils from the set. So it's not like they're a very, very highly desired subset, I don't think. I think they're, people like them, but I don't think it's one that a lot of people are chasing. You mentioned the H cards. I guess I don't actually have the H card subsets on my list from Acropolis and Skyridge, because to me that never triggered to me as a subset, because it was all the hollows from the set. I really don't know what we're talking about. For Acropolis and Skyridge, the regular set was numbered, and then the hollows had a separate numbering system which didn't come in reverse holo. It was done because in that era, the rares would have foil and non-foil versions, and then if you did reverses, you'd basically have almost 2 of exactly the same card, but just with a different collector number on it. And that happened for Expedition. So when they got to Acropolis and Skyridge, they just put the hollows as a separate numbering system, which then didn't have reverses. And those are very, very sought after for those sets, because, as you would imagine, the hollows from a vintage set, other than, the crystals which are in the set, they're what people are after. People want the hollows.
Yeah. And again, I
Continuing,
guess the other thing that's interesting to me too about those is the amount of cards when you get up to these 25, 26, 30, card type of subsets, and
yeah,
back in vintage and in good condition. Again, not so easy to put those sets together, but might be
yeah.
a fun challenge for somebody that would be interested in doing that.
Probably, yeah. I mean, with those ones, it was still just about one in every 3 packs had one of the hollows, because it was just the hollows at their normal pull rate, just numbered separately.
Got it.
Next one was a very weird one. So this was the SH Shining Pokemon, and it was an ongoing subset across multiple sets. So numbers 1 through 3 were in Stormfront, 4 through 6 in Platinum, 7 through 9 in Supreme Victors, and 10 through 12 in Arceus. And this one was most weird to me because it misses Rising Rivals out, which we'll talk about in a moment because that's a different subset. I think I would have liked this subset a lot more if it was just the 4 Platinum sets had it, rather than being 1 Diamond and Pearl set and then the first, third, and fourth Platinum set. So what these are, they're shiny versions of Pokemon, so with the shiny coloring on a few different Pokemon, and they only come in reverse holo, and then they have this separate SH numbering. These ones are very, very desirable as a subset for a lot of people. And as anyone who's collected, Diamond and Pearl Platinum era reverses, they're very, very hard to find in good condition because it was the full, mirror reverse foil, and that stuff scratched so easily. Any reverses from that era are hard to find. So having this special subset that only comes in reverse, it leads to it being very, very difficult to find mint copies, and a lot of people going after those mint copies when they do show up. A lot of them are outselling, most of the level X's and stuff from their respective sets. It's only, when there's a Charizard or something in the same set, it's beating them out. But a lot of these are the big pulls from their respective sets.
Yeah, I do want to mention right now. I meant to mention it earlier in the podcast, but when we first started doing this podcast, Dan, I envisioned that I would actually be supplying you with my cards, pictures of my cards for these podcast type of segments.
Yeah.
And of course, you and Laura do the editing and don't need my cards because you just go find better pictures somewhere else. But what I'll say to everyone that's watching, because again, I don't want to be a fraud, but I guess I have to be whatever I am, but I'm trying not to be a fraud. I'm not a fraud, guys. Figure it out. I've done maybe a few fraudulent things, but as an individual, I'm okay. Stop with the fraud thing. So here's the thing. I have all these cards. I need everyone to understand that I have all these cards in my collection. When Dan and Laura put some editing up, he does all the nip slip editing. She does the card editing. When all of that comes out and comes up and you guys see it, all of those cards you see are in my collection. And that's what it is when you have the most comprehensive English language card collection in the Pokemon world. Okay. So please understand that I give Dan the cards. He refuses to put mine in the pictures. He just goes find them on his own.
It depends how the pictures are. I leave it to Laura. She's telling me I have to buy a scanner soon so we can actually scan our cards in and make it a lot easier for her. But whatever's easier for Laura, I let her go ahead with it.
And when you guys watch the podcast, as opposed to those who are going to be able to listen on Spotify soon, you guys get a much more robust, enjoyable experience because they do. These two wonderful Norton people, I don't know Laura's maiden name, but whatever it is, she goes by, I think, Nora. What's her maiden name, Dan?
Her maiden name is McQuistion, but she is Norton now. She did change.
Okay, so McQuist, whatever, McQuist, God bless you. Anyways, whatever her maiden name is, and Dan, these guys are doing a great job of editing. Look at those pictures. They're beautiful. They really do. They're beautiful. Every once in a while, don't just be listening to our podcast. Glance at the screen. Some nice things are out there. The SH set, you're going to see it this week.
Yep, you will see the SH set. Moving swiftly on. Rising Rivals. Oh, wait.
How about the Alf Lithos? How about the Alf Litho thing?
That's like 3 down my list. I'm trying to go in order.
Oh, I didn't know you were going to say it. Okay, go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the Rising Rivals, the reason that one skipped the SHs is Rising Rivals had its own subset. It was a 6-card subset, and it had one of each of Rotom's different forms. It didn't have the basic Rotom, but it had the Mow, the Fan, that kind of thing, and it had a card called Charon's Choice, which would make the Rotom deck playable if anyone wanted to play it. I think some people tried to make the Rotom deck work as a deck. It didn't really make any big big waves at tournaments or anything like that. These cards were a lot easier to pull than the SHs and stuff were. I think you got about 2 to 3 of these cards per box. So within just a couple of boxes, 2 to 3 boxes, you could finish the whole set of 6. And that's kind of reflected in their price now on how much they are compared to the rest of their set.
What's the numbers, Dan? I don't think you said the numbers.
The numbers are RT1 through RT6. That's the numbers on the Rotom subset.
Got it.
Next we have, so the set Arceus didn't just have those 3 SH cards in it. That one also then had its own subset, but that one still got SH cards as well, despite the fact Rising Rivals didn't. This had a set of different forms of Arceus. So it was Arceus getting every type that existed in the TCG at that point. So these were numbered AR1 through 9. These were very, very easy to complete as a set. I actually think if you bought a box of Arceus, you were basically guaranteed to get the full set of 9 from every single box. These ones look really nice. If you line them up, as I'm sure I'll make Laura do on the images on screen, it has like an ongoing pattern across all of the text boxes, so they all look very nice together. Again, this was another one that was designed to be, it could be played as a deck, because Arceus had a special rule, you could have any number of copies in the deck, but the deck that came out of it was another very, very fringe deck that not too many people actually tried to play. Well, then we hit Alph Lithographs, as David tried to get to earlier. So this was another little weird set. It was throughout the Heart Gold, Soul Silver era, there was one in each of the 4 sets. And they were some of the least playable cards they've ever released for Pokemon. The first 3 especially were absolute garbage. The 4th one, very occasionally a deck would put 1 copy in, but these were just not great cards for playability. I think you got 1 or 2 per case, so one every 3 or 6 boxes. But because of the fact that there's only 1, so it's not like you have to hit the specific one in each set, and the fact that no one really wanted them, they were very, very cheap. These ones were numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4, but with the actual written out word rather than just the number. And as I said, there was 1 per set. It was, and in terms of value and stuff, they're fully just outshined by at least the legends in every set, and I think even some of the primes outshine some of them.
Dan, do you think that I recall correctly when I think that might be the smallest numbers ever printed on a card? Like, I feel looking for the number 1, 2, 3, or 4 at the bottom of that card, you actually have to be like within the age of 12 to 22 just because your eyesight is still good enough to find it without a magnifying glass.
All right, I'm looking at a picture here at the first one. I'm not totally sure it's the smallest. I think the problem is the background of the card is horrible to read text against, and it's written in, like when I said it's the word written out, it's written out in Unowns, so in the letter Pokemon. So yeah, it's very difficult to see. I can definitely grant you that. I don't know if it's any smaller than just the normal ones, but it's a lot harder to read.
Yeah. I mean, finding the numbers and understanding they were written out, it took me a while to figure all of that out. So
yeah, I can definitely see that. Next one we have, right after the Heart Gold, Soul Silver era, there was a set called Call of Legends, which, some people will count it as part of the Heart Gold, Soul Silver era. This had a subset in it of shiny Pokemon. It was SH1 through SH11. It was weird that when it first came out, this wasn't what the hype was around. I mean, now, all of the value of Call of Legends lies in these shiny Pokemon. But when the set first came out, all of the hype was around a regular foil called Pachirisu, because it was a very, very playable card. That is the thing that people were chasing. There were some collectors grabbing these shinies, but people tearing open the boxes is because they wanted the foil Pachirisu for decks. For the shiny Pokemon, out of the 11 of them, it was 8 of them also have non-shiny versions within the main set as regular holos. It's different artwork, it's not just a palette swap, but they're mechanically the same as holos within the set. It's only the legendary dogs, Entei, Raikou, Suicune, which are mechanically unique cards. So there was no playability hype around these at all. This was full just a collector's thing, and I don't think it even really took off that much until a few years later people started looking at them. I think even beyond the Pachirisu, another thing people looked at in Call of Legends was there were again reverse hollow only versions of the basic energy, which used the very nice artwork that we'd first seen in Heart Gold, Soul Silver, which had silhouettes and stuff of Pokemon on them. So even those people were trying to get a hold of a lot more than these shiny Pokemon at the time when the set actually came out.
You know, it's so funny when I sent you this the topics and we were talking about what we're going to talk about this week.
Yeah,
Again, all of this stuff is pre what I actually sent you,
yeah,
and didn't really think about it because my ability to think comprehensively these days is muted to say the least. But it's such a good historical version to go back through this stuff because these little tiny sets are so eye appealing. They're so
yeah.
hard to find, especially in good condition. And my whole thought was for people that might want to collect things, they really are something that would be challenging yet possibly still doable for those
Yeah.
that might want to have a really kind of different and unique collection they might want to put together.
Yeah, this shiny set is definitely quite high up on my list of stuff I do want to try and get finished. I think I have half of it just from when I was opening the set, but it is one of the things where there's not that many overall, and every card in the set is a nice big acquisition for you. It's one of the things where you'll feel a bit of a sense of accomplishment with every single card you check off that list because they do all look amazing. They're all gorgeous looking cards. They all came from Black Star promos in Japan, and they were all very, very limited release promos in Japan. So even though we think of them being quite rare over here, in Japan it was stuff where there was 5,000 copies or 1,000 copies of some given out via lotteries. So it's nice that there's a slightly more obtainable version of the artwork in English, which I think also adds to the appeal. For some people who would always prefer Japanese, some of those promos just may be completely out of their grasp in terms of price wise, so they'll look at the slightly cheaper English version.
I'm going to segue for a moment then because I was going to talk about this later, but later to me could mean, as you know, from a mortality standpoint, that I don't have any ability to talk. I could be laying here having had a stroke or heart attack or something. So Dan, here's the question. All right, I know you're going to move into the Radiance and the other
Yeah,
collections,
yeah,
and you're talking about releases from Japan.
yeah.
Do we have any notion on what you're going to discuss coming up here in just a few moments of these other type of collections and why they're not in every set? Why are they just in some sets? Why do they seem to be towards the latter part of a release or an era of cards? Do you have any feel for, kind of what brings them into what creates a subset versus a standard set?
So I think a lot of it with especially with the dogs, sorry, not the dogs, with the shinies, it is just a case of as you're coming towards the end of an era, Pokemon will look at what's out in Japan and say, okay, what would collectors or players in the rest of the world actually like that we don't have time to do a big, promo release for or a main set release for. And then that's why they'll go into sets, go into subsets, something like that. Just they're looking at it that way. And the Radiant collections, which we're about to talk about, which are in Legendary Treasures and Generations, I believe in Japan, both of those were actually sets on their own. They weren't subsets. But because English has, I think we talked about before, English or the rest of the world has a much more rigid release schedule and a lot less flexibility on what they're willing to release as a product. Whereas Japan can release a booster set and say, okay, this is a set of 30 something cards and they come in 5 card boosters or however they were released. Whereas the US and the rest of the world just will not play about with it a lot more like that. So they get added to sets as subsets more often. Like I said, the 2 Radiant collections did, and yeah, towards the end of an era is because that's the point where they're just looking and saying, okay, what have we missed? What do we still want to get over here?
So does that kind of imply it's sort of like the leftover cards, the leftovers cards from the Japanese releases that just haven't made it to the US yet?
You can see it sort of that way. Yeah, it's just like we're for each set we're bringing over the things we want, and then as we get to the end of an era, double check is there something we wanted to bring over but couldn't find a place for it, that kind of thing.
When you think of leftovers, I think of leftovers, I think of scraps, the stuff that's kind of the junk that's you just trying to get rid of. And yet
Yeah,
these Radiant type of collections are so beautiful. They're so, I mean, amazing, the colors
yeah.
and the vibrancy of them. So, it's almost like they're getting more than they're worth, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't think of them as leftovers, as like this is the stuff we didn't want to do. It's more the stuff of we wanted to do this, but we didn't know where to put it. And then
But does that mean that like they feel like but so they feel bad about that and so we get a better artwork on them? Like how does that make any sense?
I mean, I don't know all of the ins and outs of exactly how Pokemon works. That's just
I thought you
my
knew everything. I
no,
could have picked 20 different people to do the podcast with. I picked you. I thought you
but
knew
yeah,
everything. Now you're telling me it's all like Laura's. Are you the puppet? Is she the puppeteer and you're just the puppet? What's going on?
I bet you couldn't find 20 people who put up with you enough to do this every week.
Hey, fine. Point taken.
Yeah. All right. So let's quickly talk about the next things were the two Radiant collections, one in Legendary Treasures and one in Generations. As I say, in Japan they were
Gorgeous.
small.
Gorgeous.
They look really really nice. They have kind of different foiling and stuff that you don't see on any cards outside of the collections. For the Legendary Treasures one, there were a lot of them were reprints. A lot of them been cards that were already in other sets. Some of them were mechanically unique. Uh, Playability wise, the only two cards I think in the Radiant collection that were actually wanted for decks were Mew EX and Reshiram. And again, those were both reprints, so it's people already had access to these cards. I'm not even 100% sure if the Reshiram was still in standard. I don't remember how standard rotation worked at that time. For people collecting Legendary Treasures, this is not the difficult part of building a set of Legendary Treasures. I think you got one or two of these in every pack, and there's only 25 of them, so you're going to get most of them out of a box. But Legendary Treasures, it has two full art gold cards of Reshiram and Zekrom, which are very hard to pull. Legendary Treasures also, for some reason, didn't put a reverse holo in every pack. And it wasn't just a case of, like with the Unowns, where the Unowns would replace it one every 5 packs. It was just about half of your box wouldn't have a reverse in the pack. So when people are building up Legendary Treasures full sets or master sets, it's either the two golds or it's the reverses that are causing them the trouble. I think the fact that not as many people talk about this Radiant collection is just because you can go pretty easily, pretty cheaply buy it. I think you can get it, the full set out there. You can just go and buy it as one. You don't have to do any real work towards it, unlike the rest of Legendary Treasures where it's a lot more difficult.
Yeah, I think that's good. It's good to know. And I looked at some of the prices of some of those RCs, and they are very reasonable. So
Yeah,
it looks like very doable.
Yeah. And then the other RC set was from Generations. Now, Generations is a very low interest set overall. All of the value in Generations lies in sealed product. There are so many people collecting sealed product of Generations that are just not collecting the set. Generations it's the first set on this list we've talked about where the set wasn't released in your traditional method. It wasn't released as booster boxes. It wasn't where you could buy single packs. It was one of those sets where you have to buy, a box set that comes with some promos and comes with a few packs. There'd be people opening those. They'd sell you 36 packs together, but there wasn't like an official booster box release for it. And it's just got to the point where any collectors of Generations are wanting those sealed products. I think even for the main set of Generations, there's only about between the main set, and the Radiant collection, there's only about one card that's over $50, and it's a Charizard GX or whatever they were called in that era. I forget which era that was, or EX maybe, or maybe it was a Mega EX, something like that. It'll be on screen now. So because of that, Generations the Generations Radiant collection again is fairly easy to pick up. All I will say in terms of opening it is my main set of Generations is missing a lot, but my Radiant collection is done. And I haven't bought any singles from Generations yet. So I'm just going by what I've opened. I'm missing a lot of regular stuff, but I've got the Radiant collection. So that should give an idea of how easy they were to pull. And again, when it first came out, all of the interest was in one card in the main set. The interest was in Jolteon EX, because that was a very, very standard playable card. And I said that Generations was released in those box sets. You know, like you might think of, which we'll get to talk about later, Crown Zenith, Hidden Fate, stuff like that. You get a lot of those products released over about a 6-week period. And now how they do Pokemon is when a card is first released, there's about a 3-week gap between release and it being legal in Standard. It's like the third Friday of every month or something. Stuff gets added. I don't know exactly how it works. Laura will correct me in the comments. But back when Generations came out, one, as soon as a product was released, it was legal in Standard, and two, because Generations was the 20th anniversary promotion, they were releasing it over a full calendar year. So there were 12 months of these products coming out. So the first product that came out it had 2 Generations packs in, or maybe 4, and a Mew promo. And it was part of a series where there'd be one of these boxes every month for the year, and they'd have a different legendary Pokemon as the promo card, and then there were other products later on. But it meant that the Jolteon was Standard legal and wanted for Standard, when the only way you could get Generations was just this one Mew product, and there was nothing coming for about another month. So at the start, when Generations first came out, there was so much of it being opened because people were hunting this Jolteon that basically anything that wasn't the Jolteon was worth next to nothing for a long time, because everyone just wanted this one card from the set. And again, the Radiant collections had such high pull rates that you could buy one of those just so easily. Nothing in that set was worth more than about $1, I think, even for a couple of years afterwards. I mean, now there's a couple that are nicely up there. I think it's a Sylveon EX, has very nice artwork, which has Eevee and Sylveon on it. And there's a Flareon EX that also has Vaporeon Jolteon on it. There's a couple of them that are a little bit up there, but because of that huge initial opening for Jolteon, when it first came out, there was no hype around it at all. And I think that's kind of people's perceptions are still kind of stuck on that, and just the fact that no one seems to want Generations as a set, as opposed to it being sealed. I think that's why no one's paying too much attention.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I was trying to reconcile the comments that you made on both sides. You continue to say that no one really wants Generations as a set, of course, notwithstanding me. I have it, of course, but of course, having to collect everything. And then you're talking about people only want the sealed product. How do you reconcile those two things? Now, again, we're not back in the day when it was standard. Probably most of these cards aren't even allowable in today's formats or something, since it's so long ago. So how do you reconcile when you're saying, hey, no one wants this for set, and people only want sealed product? Why? Why do they want sealed product today if they don't even want it for the set? What's the good of sealed product?
Well, so it reconciles as so much of that sealed product was opened to get, the Jolteon and whatever, that the amount of sealed product is actually quite low. And all of the sealed product for this set, it looks like very, very nice display pieces. I said they had that 12 run of boxes where there was one a month. All of those together look very nice. You see each of the legendary Pokemon on the front. And those 12 Pokemon had a lot of other products and stuff come out over that year. I know we have some downstairs where they also released a plush one a month of Mew, then I think it was Mew, then Celebi, then other stuff. So every month there was this Mew box for Generations. There was a plush, there was other Mew stuff in month 1. In month 2 it was Celebi, all that stuff. So there were going to be people not just collecting the cards. They will either pick a Pokemon that they like and they want that card box set as part of that display where they've got all of the 20th anniversary stuff for that Pokemon, or they want the runs of 12. There was 4 other big boxes, which one of them was Pikachu, Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur, but the card that came with it, I think it was a regular and maybe a jumbo came with it. It didn't just have that Pokemon, it was full art with a ton of other Pokemon from those types on it. So it hits a lot of the people who collect those other Pokemon too. If people are just species collectors, still want those cards, because even if it's not named, Flareon EX, it's named Charizard EX. If there's a Flareon on the artwork, people will still want it. It's just that basically every product that came out for Generations is a very nice looking display product. It's set up in a way where it looks nice on a shelf, and because of the much greater limited amount, when so much of it's opened, the opened loose cards are in abundance everywhere. That's what I say. When I say no one really wants it, I mean, there are still people collecting it. It's just the amount of people collecting it is not as much as how many cards are out there because of how much was opened. Whereas the people collecting the sealed stuff, the sealed population on a lot of it is a lot lower because of how much got opened. So that's where it balances out.
Dan, when you always mention all of the plush that you guys have in that house, I want to
Yeah.
make it clear to you that if you haven't been able to go viral by then through these wonderful Coffee Talk podcasts and the boring nature of my co-hosting with you, you'll be able to go viral by when you have children and when you try when your children climb around and get into the plush that you think they won't, because you'll guard it with your lives. And so just to see like Laura's reaction the first time, like Snorlax's arm is pulled off or whatever by the baby, please make sure you're filming. Because that is the stuff that watching her cry, watching the arm being torn off, putting how much value was just shot. That's going to be some fun stuff, buddy. That is going to be some really fun stuff.
I'm so close to just booking a vasectomy in. I swear to God. Just the thought of that.
Ah, man. Good stuff, Dan. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, next collection.
Yeah, so there's three more, which I will briefly mention together at first. There's the Shiny Vaults from Hidden Fates and Shining Fates, and there's the Galarian Gallery from Crown Zenith. I think where the big shift hits for these three is that for all of the other sets, the subsets were a small part compared to the actual big set release. For these three, the set is being marketed on these subsets. For Hidden Fates, no one was hyped about that because of the main Hidden Fate set. They are hyped for the Shining Vault. Same with Shining Fate, same with Crown Zenith. And because with those, there's so many cards in them. There's Shining Fate. Hidden Fates has, I think, 96. Shining Fate's like 122. Crown Zenith, it's 100 and something. I'll double check the number in a moment. But the fact that you can still only get a maximum of one of those per pack, and it's not even every pack, the collection aspect is you're chasing those. They're not just a nice little extra thing in addition to your set. That's the set you actually want. That's where the huge shift changed, I think, between those and the previous ones.
And you will know, of course, that I love Hidden Fates. That is my ultimate top set, as far as just because of the variety, because of the separate subset, a little bit of everything in a single set. So yeah, I get it, and those cards are beautiful too.
I just realized I missed out the Trainer Gallery cards, which were in across 4 sets. It was Brilliant Stars, Astral Radiance, Lost Origin, and Silver Tempest. Had a 30-card subset. It was called the Trainer Gallery. They were all reprints. They were just new artwork for different cards. They would replace the reverse hollows in some packs, but they would always be overshined by what was in the main set. For all of those, I think if you pick out the top alternate art card from the main set, you could buy the full Trainer Gallery 3 or 4 times over for the same price as one copy of the big alternate art from the main set, which should show you how much easier they were to finish, which is my experience as well.
And I did notice when I was cataloging these to discuss today that they were, again, the last 4 sets, those Trainer Galleries, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Again, I just think, is this part of what you said as far as being kind of the leftovers that needed to be filtered into the last sets distributed of an era or something?
I do think that it was more of a shift in what they wanted to do. But you see, with Scarlet and Violet sets, we're getting the same kind of cards that you would find in a Trainer Gallery. They've just been amalgamated into the main set. We have those, like the special illustration rares there's like 10 in Scarlet Violet, 15 in Paldea Evolved, and then some of the illustration rares, stuff like that. Those are the kind of cards that you would have got in the Trainer Galleries in those previous sets. So I think we're getting the same kind of cards. They're just changing how they do it. They're secret cards with the main set numbering rather than a Trainer Gallery.
Are Trainer Gallery cards specifically trainers? Are they all trainers, or are they just call them that?
They just call them that. I think the other big thing is with Scarlet and Violet going forward, it's the illustration rares and stuff are cards from that set. The trainer galleries would be cards from the whole Sword and Shield era. I think they went back to, but they aren't all trainers. There's a lot of Pokemon, and then there's some Pokemon EXs or GXs. I keep mixing up my eras, and then there'd be a few supporters in each one as well.
All right.
But,
Yeah, just it's really again, I don't know. I may have to rant here in a minute. So let me make sure you finish up before I
yeah,
do anything.
we'll jump back to those shiny vaults and Galarian galleries. I'll finish saying what we have to do about that, and then you can have your rant.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So those ones, obviously, people are collecting the sets for those, and a lot of people are just collecting those. They don't even bother with the main set. They just buy and trade for those subsets. Don't open any packs because they don't want the main set. Personally, I love Galarian Gallery. I think it's incredible artwork. Hidden Fates and Shining Fates, I didn't love as much. I think they're very cool in concept, but the GXs within those, or I think GXs and EXs, or Vs and GXs, I'm so confused. They were the same artwork as Pokemon from sets. They were the same as the full arts from sets, just with a palette swap to make the Pokemon shiny. So you weren't
You're
actually
talking
getting...
you're talking about Galarian Gallery now from Crown Zenith.
No, Shiny Vault from Hidden Fates.
Oh, you're talking from before. Okay, got it.
Yeah, those ones, the bigger Pokemon, were just palette swaps, and then the smaller Pokemon, like the non GXs, whatever, it was a shining Pokemon. It was new artwork, but then there was no real background to the Pokemon. They just had that silver burst background that was the same background on every card. So the only stuff that I was personally really excited by for the Hidden Fates Shiny Vault were the full art supporters and then the golden stadiums. Obviously love those. Even the golden Tapu Lele, etc. were just the full arts, but now in gold. And then for Shining Fates, again, similar kind of thing. The regular Pokemon just had a silver background. The bigger Pokemon were palette swapped Pokemon. I don't even think that one had any supporters in it. I think that was just Pokemon for that one. But then with Crown Zenith, it's full new artwork for everything that's in it. All of the regular Pokemon have the full art style that we saw in the trainer gallery or in the illustration rares. Everything's completely new. It's all fantastic. The new GXs, not GXs, the Vs, the V stars. It's all completely different artwork with full backgrounds, full illustrations. I just think Crown Zenith, the Galarian Gallery, is just one of the nicest things to look at in a binder. I just think every card is gorgeous from it. I can see why a lot of people are going after this one. It's an amazing set.
So Dan, when you say a lot of people are going after this one, I just have a feeling, and of course, when I have a feeling, Dan, nobody cares. It doesn't even make any sense. When I have look, I'm the one that says, hey, honey, I don't think you love me anymore. And she says, I say, I feel like you don't love me because I'm supposed to say that, the therapist says. And then my wife says, well, you should just stop feeling that because I love you. Like what? That's really empathetic and verifying. So, but Dan, I don't hear anything about Crown Zenith, Dan. I feel like it was an afterthought. There were sets before it and there's sets after it, and we passed right through it. And, all you do is you've done 37 videos on Paldea Evolved. Okay, you just keep opening product. There's nothing on the market anymore because you've opened so much product, Dan. What about Crown Zenith? Did you open any product? And how many videos did you do? How many videos did anybody do? Does anybody still even know what Crown Zenith is? Dan, tell me. I want to know about Crown Zenith. Does anybody really care except for you?
Well, I did do a lot of videos on Crown Zenith.
How many, Dan?
I don't know, probably 10, 15 maybe. I think I did videos every time there was a new product, and then if we got extras of some. And then some of the singles have been featured in my other videos. I've been actively trading and stuff for them. Obviously, I don't think anything in Galarian Gallery is reaching the price of the Shiny Vault from Hidden Fates. But Hidden Fates was released in 2019, so before the huge COVID boom that the interest had. So Hidden Fates, a lot of people are going after it. Well, I say a lot of people are going after it. You see the higher prices for those because the supply has been way lower. The supply was before that huge boom, and there's a Charizard in it, There's Charizard and there's a lot of evolutions in it. The Charizard is where the big money is in that set, but people will still chase a Charizard. And then Shining Fates came out right in the middle of the pandemic when it was very, very hard to see products on shelves. So the hype around those two was, I think, created more because of the supply. And I think the people that I talk to who collect a lot, people who aren't just chasing Charizards or whatever, people who look at every set and decide what to collect, the Galarian Gallery is really, really what people are enjoying. The values are a bit lower, again, because there was a much nicer supply, and also because it's still recent. You can still go and buy some Crown Zenith product in stores. And we'll talk a little bit more in our What's New section about another one that's just been announced. We'll talk a bit about that later. So, as you know, with all cards, you're never going to see the top of the market until there's no more sealed product you can buy. When it comes to collectible cards, playable cards obviously throw the metrics out a little bit, but until a set is completely off the shelves, you're never going to then fully know what the market's going to reach on the collectible cards. So I do think a lot of people are chasing Crown Zenith, especially that Galarian Gallery set. And, I go to my local trade days, I go to my local events and whatever. That's what people are trading for. That's what people are going after.
Well, hopefully the next time we speak, next week, if either one of us is or both of us are still alive, it wouldn't matter if either one of us are alive, because then we'd just be talking to the ghost of the other person. But I should have my Crown Zenith set complete in my hands, so we'll keep our fingers crossed that the U.S. Postal Service can get it here. So
nice. I'm sure that when you look at it, when you look at the Galarian Gallery in person, you will see what I mean about just how really, really nice it does look.
Dan, you just said my last name. You said in person. I need you to understand, because this has been a bone of contention between my wife and I for a long time now. She does not like that you don't say my name right, okay? So here's my name. My last name is Person, Dan. That's what it is. It's Person, but it's I-N. It's not O-N. And sometimes you'll say, like with David Persian, which is more like the Dark Persian card, that you can get with the no HP on it or something, like it's got an error. I don't know what it is. So Dan, I just thought, since you articulated so wonderfully my name at that point, in person, that's who I am, I should just point that out to you so we wouldn't have any conflict on that later.
I will stick to just calling you. I will just stick to saying it like I would say Person then, and not even try and say your name. I'll just say, this is David. He's a person, and we'll go from there.
Yes, there you go. It's perfect. Nice. Thanks, Dan.
That's it. There's a lot of things when I'm talking, because of my accent, that Laura calls me on. Like, I'll tell you what. We've basically finished talking about these special sets now. Little bonus thing that's now about Dan's accent. The TV show that King Gary is famous for going on. Do you know the show?
Pawn Stars.
Yeah. And in England, we would call that show Pawn Stars. Because, at least in the north of England, where I am from, there is zero pronunciation difference between P-A-W-N and P-O-R-N. Those two words are pronounced 100% the same. And it brings stuff up when you're saying, yeah, I saw King Gary, he was on Pawn Stars. And it's like, what? What are you talking about? And that is... Yeah, that is one that comes up a lot if we're talking about my accent. Just thought I'd throw that in there.
Well, good information, Dan, and just another reason that King Gary and I should get into the ring together, because I have never been on Pawn Stars, but I definitely could have been on the other one. And Dan, I'm not so worried about your accent, honestly. I think we can get around that. I'm still worried about the fact that people approach you at these conventions and Worlds events and stuff, and you won't spend 3 minutes talking to them, either because of your ego or because of your weak bladder or pooper. So, don't worry about the accent. That's secondary for sure.
That is such a lie. Other than if I'm desperate for the bathroom, I will talk to people for as long as they want to talk to me.
That's not what they think. That's not your reputation, buddy. You better fix it. Get out there and maybe set up a table and stop trading and start talking.
Okay.
Oh, good. David has a rant coming on.
All right, next section. It's another one of those sections that I hate and the viewers love. It's It's David says nonsense for 3 minutes is what it is. He's calling it a rant, but it's not. He's just saying things for 3 minutes.
Dan, I'm going to skip that, actually. I'm going to move on past the rant. I'm not going to skip it. I'm going to come back. I would never skip it. That's the wrong thing to do. But I do want to just, because we have another segment coming called Look What I Found. And I'm going to reverse the two segments today because I've been so impacted by, I've been heavily impacted. You've impacted my life, Dan. You've given me the kind of power and information that I think is going to change my life forever. And so because when you did these Radiant collections and all that stuff, Look What I Found is a segment where it shows that I actually, contrary to the commenting person who barely can go through, might have been Craig, I don't know. They're all the same person, who said they don't even look at their collection every once in a while. Sometimes they'll find a city card. So I actually am starting to look through my collection. It's the least I can do.
What cards have our hosts found today?
Yeah.
And I found a card, and each week we're going to talk about a card that either one of us found or both of us found that we think is just neat. So the card I found this week, which ties beautifully into what you were talking about, is the Reshiram from Radiant Collection. It is number 22 of 25. It is a beautiful card. Put a picture on it, Dan, Laura, somebody, maybe, Sorrel and Sean. Somebody put it up there. And I'm going to tell you what I did with this card, all right? And here's my story. So my wife has been questioning me. All right. Are we, David, we're running out of money. We're not going to make it through retirement. You got to stop. It's not pretty over here, guys. Between that and whether or not I should cut my son's hair, we're pretty much on the edge of divorce. But you guys stay married 30 years and you'll figure it out. Dan, not for you. You and Laura are like young lovers that don't stop. So anyways, here's the thing is this Reshiram card is gorgeous. And I thought to myself, what a way can I manipulate my wife? She doesn't watch these videos. It's the only reason I can say this on out loud. Don't contact her personally, or I'll find out where you live, and I will send Shadowless Jack or somebody over there to handle it. So here's the thing. This card, here's what I did. I took this card, I took it out of the collection, and I packaged it up, and I gave it to my wife. And here's what I wrote. All of you should steal this idea from me. If you're not doing it, you're stupid. Steal the idea, use it to your advantage, all right? Don't reinvent the wheel. This Reshiram, if you reimagine or change the letters around, you could say it almost looks like My Chérie Amour, which is a song from the 60s, which means my darling love. And this beautiful card has roses all over it. It's gorgeous. So I gave it to her, and here's what I wrote. I wrote, I'm presenting this card to you as a sign of my truth, and that's what it says on the bottom of the card, the truth, that I am outrageously blessed, because it says outrage on there, to have someone as loving and as accepting as you in my life. And if there was such a thing as blue flares, another reference on the card, I would shoot them as high as I could into the air to let the whole world know how much I love you. Hey guys, if you do that with this card to your lover, let me tell you, that's going to get you so many Pokemon power points that it may keep them off your back with the spending you're doing for a little bit time. I got a little bit of extra spending going on. So right after that, of course, things happen for a reason. I have a message in my inbox that says someone's got about $2 million worth of Pokemon cards they're looking to sell, and they might like to consign them through me. I'm going to talk to them on Tuesday. We'll see what happens. Sometimes things, and of course, I don't have $2 million, but if I were going to try to work on it through that, I have to work on it through my wife. That card got me a lot of points, all right? That's my look what I found this week. Dan?
That was more unhinged than the rant at points. Right, I'm gonna just say now, look what I found is a new segment we talked about where we each show off a card from our collection. And David has been very, very strongly pushing me to put this podcast into proper sections and a proper format that we can follow every week. He decided on this, wrote up exactly what order we do everything in, and sent it over to me. And now this is a Dan rant in the middle of the Look What I Found section. And the first week, he's switched two sections around. Unbelievable. I'll tell you what, if anyone does that, please send either photos or videos to us, either through Twitter or through Instagram or something. Because if anyone does that in the next week, I'll feature the video clip or the pictures or something in the next episode, because it would be a ridiculous thing to do. Tell you what, here's
it's
what
not
I
a ridiculous. It worked. Why? Because you don't have enough romance? Because you pick infamy over intimacy? Laura's going to get you on that one later, buddy. I'm done. I'm not going to put up with this. I think I'm starting my rant too early. Settle down.
All right. Let's finish. Look what I found. Here's what I found. Look at this. It's cool. It's a Moltres from Team Up, and it has the Team Up logo on it. I'll put a proper picture on screen so people can see it. That one, I think it was one of the last few variants I needed from Team Up. I think that one was never released in the US. I couldn't find any store in the US that ever got that variant. I think it had to be imported from the UK when we finally got it. And I thought that was a nice thing, and then I've just been completely blown out of the water with a grand romantic gesture via a card. But hey,
Dan,
I think
can you put it back on screen real quick? I know you're going to put it up, but these UK exclusives are the ones that have that name on it. But I guess it's which I really like. They're hard to come by.
Well, now they are back. That's from the Sun and Moon era. Back in the Sun and Moon era, it was always they had the even the GameStop ones just had the set logo. Back in the Sun and Moon era, now it's where we get GameStop, the UK will get the set logo, and Australia will get EB Games on the same card usually. But back then, it was just that Moltres as a whole as a promo. I don't think we ever got in the US.
Okay.
All right.
Once again, Dan, good clarification.
Yeah. All right. Well, since all our sections are backwards, do you want to do your rant and then we'll do some TCG news or whatever we're calling it?
Oh, good. David has a rant coming on.
Yeah, and let's. I don't have a topic to rant on today, Dan, but I'm so mad at you, and I'm so mad at what you just did in putting yourself down by not respecting your own Team Up, UK exclusive. That I think it's time that I rant about our own validation of our own collections. Okay.
Okay.
So, Dan, here's the thing: we got to stop comparing ourselves to others. We got to start figuring out what it is that we want. I am so sick of these Facebook things where somebody says, "What should I buy? What should I collect?" And everybody goes, well, what you should collect is the most expensive cards from this set. And you should go and you should buy sealed product and you should open it up. And then somebody says, Dan, what's up with the value of things? How much can I acquire this card for? How much is this card worth? And then I've got the advisors. The advisors are all there and they're all telling them what they think. Dan, you just enjoy your phone. It's no problem. I'm just going to go on for a little bit. So the thing is, I can't put up with the fact that everybody seems to be an expert. And where do they get their expertise? From the College of Pokemon? From the College of Wisdom in their lifetimes because they can understand? Then is there a separate interest? Is there somebody's got a specific motivation for wanting to pay less and they're going to tell you your card's only worth $100? And it goes back to the misprints and the miscuts and the RCs, the Radiant collections, the special shiny vaults, every Charizard. You can only be a Charizard collector because that's got to be what's worth the most. This whole worth something, who knows what's worth anything to anybody? I don't have a knowledge of it and I'm not going to claim to. But there's people like you, Dan. There's people that are going to sit there and they're going to act like they're the experts, right? Okay. Well, maybe with you, Dan, if people put out a Patreon and they say, hey, I can give him some money, he's actually going to tell me something. Maybe you actually do. I don't know, Dan. I don't know nothing about you. I don't even know why I'm on this podcast with you. But the thing that gets me is I know about me. I don't know a lot about me. Some people say I'm psychotic. Some people say I'm bipolar. Some people say that I don't even know who I am. But at the end of the day, I know exactly what I'm about when I don't realize what I'm about, if I'm not thinking about what I'm about and people aren't telling me what I'm about. What I am about, Dan, is I'm about given choice. I'm pro-choice, Dan. Not Democratic and Republican pro-choice. I'm pro-choice when it comes to you deciding what's in your collection. And you need to own it. Just because somebody says your collection sucks, you tell them you suck. You look at them right back, Dan, you say you suck. Because you know what sucks? It sucks that somebody's going to make an opinion on your collection. You want to collect the Radiant collections, fine. You want to collect the 50-cent cards, that's great too. You want to collect nothing of any value? You don't even want to collect Pokemon. How about the comment on the Nintendo devices? Go collect that stuff. Maybe you can't stand any of it and you've decided you want to sell your whole collection. I'm happy with every one of your suggestions, your resolutions, what you've come up with. I want to be your enabler. I want to be your co-conspirator, your codependent Pokemon person. Count on me to do that for you. And the next time somebody tries to bully you into what they think you should be collecting, the next time somebody tries to give you bad advice, put it all away, close your eyes off, put the headset on, put the eye things on, go to bed, wake up the next morning and decide you won't put up with it anymore. And that is all I've got to say about that.
Okay. Doing that allowed me to check my phone and realize that it's Squirtle Community Day on Pokemon Go, so I will need to figure out playing that a bit after we finish recording.
Dan, when you speak about Pokemon Go, did you realize that there was some article about this new app about where you sleep and you get Pokemon?
Yeah, I've seen the Pokemon Sleep. Laura, it was announced like ages ago. Laura's been really excited for it, but they just hadn't released it in a long time. They announced it like probably about 18 months ago, I think, and it finally came out.
Dan, what is it? You sleep and there's Pokemon. You sleep on a pillow by your head, and a bunch of Pokemon appear while you're sleeping, and you wake up the next morning and you've got a bunch of new friends you can play with in a tournament?
Maybe. I don't think it's not a tournament thing, but I think it's a way of helping you track how well you sleep, and it tracks if you like wake up during the night and stuff. I think stuff like that.
Do they have a Masters Division version of the app, Dan, that so every time you pee in the night, you also maybe got some extra bonuses just to give you validation for still being alive at age 62?
I don't know. We'll find out. For next week, I'll try and figure out what Pokemon Sleep actually is.
Okay, that's great, Dan. And don't forget, just because I'm 62 doesn't mean I can't climb into the cage with King Gary and bust him a new one, okay?
All right.
Any Pokemon in the news lately?
All right, we're into the section TCG in the news right now. So that's where we're just going to give you guys a quick roundup of if anything has been announced for Pokemon, any new sets or any new products coming out that you might want to be aware of.
Wait a minute, Dan. So you're saying that during an entire week, I don't have to worry about that? I don't have to distract myself with anything going on in the world? I can live my life without fear of missing out information because I can count on you on a Sunday morning, aka a Tuesday afternoon video release, to keep me abreast of all the important information in the Pokemon world?
That's the plan. Hopefully I haven't missed any this week because you didn't tell me that this was my new job until about a day ago. So
okay,
I've got
good,
what I
Dan.
think
I
is
love
relevant.
it. Thanks. I have confidence in you, buddy. Lay it out for me.
Well, so first thing, this one was actually announced a couple of weeks ago. I would have mentioned it, but last week we did the NAIC special. There's been a new box announced for Crown Zenith. So we were talking about Crown Zenith. Obviously, I thought it had been done. We all thought the products were done, but there's a new product coming out a couple of weeks after Worlds, I think it is. It actually comes out the day I get back after Worlds. It's a new box that has an Unknown V and a Lugia V promo. These are going to be Black Star promos. They're two of the last two Sword and Shield Black Star promos. There was a bit of a gap in the numbering system, and it turns out that's what they're going to be. So get in touch with your local game stores. Keep bugging them until they open pre-orders. I know ours have said they haven't opened pre-orders yet, but we will keep checking them out. Other one that I want to mention is, due to the fact a few podcasts ago, probably episode 2 or 3, David was bragging about his new purchases of blister packs from Target, and I told him about how they didn't have variants and stuff in them. Well, the ones he got didn't. However, now it seems that blister packs from Target do now have variants in them. And there are two that I've been able to get so far. It's Dondozo and Armarouge. And there are two more, which I haven't actually seen anywhere in the US yet. It's Palmot and Arboliva. I may have to import those from the UK because I know they're out in the UK. But I'll keep you up to date if I see them in stores. What actually happened was these Target blisters never actually changed their foiling. They've always had just the foil that has the lines going all the way down the card. What happened was sets changed their foiling. So the sets from late Sword and Shield era, they had the same lines going down the card foil. And so these blisters matched the cards in the sets. But now with Scarlet Violet era, they have a completely different foiling. So the fact that the blister packs have this line foiling means they are now variants. So there are at least 4 blister pack variants for Scarlet Violet that you need to be on the lookout for if you are trying to put together those master sets. Obviously, there'll be pictures of everything on screen to show you what you're trying to get.
I am completely petrified in purchasing anything from a store named Target, which historically has been my favorite store to shop at for Pokemon stuff.
Yeah.
But I will say that I'm completely scared because of their no return policy now. So I try as hard as I can to just find things there that look interesting and then see if I can buy them elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean,
Just in
hopefully
case.
that's
Just in case.
just in case. Always a good way to go. Last thing maybe worth mentioning is there's a new Oinkologne EX box been announced. It's going to be one of your standard EX boxes. You know, it has a promo of the EX. There's a Lechonk in it looks like, which I'm guessing is just going to be a foil variant from the set. We'll know more when it actually comes out. That's coming out September 3rd. And this looks like it will be a, full release. I think it was Best Buy that's announced it, but I'm sure local game stores and everything will get this one too.
Finally, let's play a game before we go.
Okay, so that's probably everything for Pokemon in the news. So, what we are going to do, last few episodes we've done a true or false game. Actually, we didn't do one last week where one of us told the other some things about their life and decided true or false. We figured that will run out of steam very, very quickly. So we're going to change up the end of episode games a little bit. Today, what we're going to be doing is an Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader game, that TV show, because if you've listened to these episodes, you will know that there seems to sometimes just be wild gaps in David's knowledge. Some things that you would think, does everyone know that? Everyone should know that, and it turns out Dave doesn't. He's now been distracted by a fly, which I think
I'm
goes some way.
distracted by the passive aggressive commentary on my lack of knowledge of the hobby. Don't you think after this many years of collecting this many cards, of eventually going to be the Guinness Book of World Record holder on all this baloney, that I know things, Dan? Don't you think so?
That passive aggressiveness was not about the hobby. It was about me having to tell you what continents were the other day.
No, you can't do that. I thought the fifth grade segment is going to be on Pokemon stuff. Are you just going to ask me real stuff?
Yeah. This is the end of episode Dave. The Pokemon stuff is over.
I thought I'm the one who inflicts the punishment. You can't be inflicting punishment. I have a career. People are going to see this and realize, okay, fine. That's fine. As long as you don't ask me nothing about money, we're okay.
I'm just picking you a couple of questions that were apparently actually on the show Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Your first question, what are the large rocks that orbit the sun between Mars and Jupiter called?
Okay, before I talk about large rocks, because you and I both know that I have them. And King Gary's going to know it when I get in the cage with him as well. But here's the thing, Dan. We're not even going to end the show and go to this segment. We're like letting people know. Usually we would end and say it's our end and we're going to go past it. But I want people to know
this week. We're trying that this week. We'll just see. We'll go straight. We'll see what happens.
All right. So anybody. Okay. So anybody still here? Our show is still going on right now. Okay. Yeah. And at this point, we would sometimes say Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And the only reason I say that is because you're still here past the credits, is because I watched Deadpool the other day, and I didn't remember that the Ferris Bueller Day Off is at the end of Deadpool as well. Pretty funny stuff. So that's good to know. And we're going to continue the show because why not? Because Dan wants to check the analytics, which is what he wants to do. I'd hate to see how it looks when somebody makes dinner at their house and he's checking the analytics on how the food went. All right, Dan, what is the darn question again about my big rocks?
What are the large rocks that orbit the sun between Mars and Jupiter called?
The large rocks that orbit the sun between... Can you just read it a little slower? I can't do it that fast. Just do it slower.
The large rocks that orbit the sun between Mars and Jupiter. So if you picture the solar system, where they get further away from the sun, there's something between Mars and Jupiter. What are they called?
Can I say planets?
You could, but you'd be very wrong. Mars and Jupiter are planets. Mars and Jupiter are planets. No, what? the large rocks between Mars and Jupiter.
Okay, I'm gonna say what is asteroids?
Okay, you didn't need to say what is because it's not Jeopardy, but you got it right. It is asteroids.
Oh, that is a complete wow. Okay.
All right. Who invented the light bulb?
Okay, I don't know who invented the light bulb. Wait a minute, that's the Dewey Decimal System. Just one second. Sometimes my mind will wander. I think it's between Edison and Franklin. I'm gonna say who is Edison?
Correct. You did actually get this one. Also,
that's hard to believe.
Who were you thinking of was the Dewey Decimal System? Because the Dewey Decimal System was just a guy called Dewey, I think.
Yes, I was. I think that I immediately because I always look at you as the librarian and I want to renew my library card every time I see you. So I always go to the Dewey Decimal System whenever we're on a podcast together.
Okay. Whose picture is on the $5 bill?
No chance. Not even a chance. Complete guess. Random number generated. No idea. $5 bill. We still have $5 bills?
Yeah, those of us in normal houses that don't live in mansions and stuff, we have currency that low. I know you just use hundreds and stuff, but most of us in the country, we have ones as well. You'd be shocked.
Oh man, Dan, I'm still trying. Dan, I'm still recalling that you told me that the currency of the UK
isn't the
is
euro.
not the euro and it's a pound. Yeah. I'm still trying to remember that.
I know.
Okay, I don't want to get this one wrong, Dan. So, am I able to phone a friend or not in this version of the game?
No, I don't know what game show you think this is.
All right, forget it. Just listen. I don't know the. Right. So it was a $5 bill picture. I don't want to get this one wrong, so just hold on a second. I'm going to ask Pikachu, so that way if I get it wrong, it's on Pikachu. Just hang on, Dan.
Okay.
Pikachu would like to guess Andrew Jackson.
It's Abraham Lincoln.
Okay, so sorry, 2 right for me and 1 wrong for Pikachu. Good job, buddy.
Sure.
And Pikachu is not part of the economy. He's part of like the Sinnoh region, so he doesn't know this stuff.
He does. He doesn't know. What are the 3 states of matter?
I don't see why this question even matters.
Okay. But answer it, though.
The 3 states of matter.
Yes.
And there's not like a 4th one now? Haven't they said there's a 4th one?
There are like extra states of matter, but the 3 that you would learn about in 5th grade. The others are like college level stuff.
You know, Dan, you realize that I was raised in a home in a very, basically in what they call today an orphanage, right? And so I wasn't taught much of this stuff. I was not book taught. I was taught by daily trips to the zoo. Like if you're talking about grooming and picking fleas off another person, I'm really good at that stuff, Dan. But
when you said you were raised in an orphanage, did you mean you were raised in the jungle like Mowgli? What do you mean picking fleas off each other?
That's what I'm referring to. That's actually what I'm referring to. Okay. But you see, the problem was the orphanage took us to the zoo, which reminded me of the Mowgli situation exactly. Okay. Dan, I don't know. There's like, let me just think about this. There's, it's got to do with water and like gas and solid. Gas
too.
Gas solid. Just a minute. Gas solid and a liquid.
There you go. You did it. Oh, I'll do. All right.
Oh.
Last one, because this isn't easy on anyone.
Thank goodness.
How many sides does a hexagon have?
Okay, just 1 second. What? Wait a minute, Dan. You want to answer this one? But I really think I could get this one right. All right. But I'm telling you, it's on you if you miss it, because I got the 3 right and you've missed one. All right, Peaks. Peaks is going to give this one a go.
All right. How many?
He's still thinking. Just give me a second.
Okay. He's still thinking, isn't he?
Still thinking. All right. You're going to be your final answer, right? Okay. No, you can't check with Ash. I don't know what Ash is doing. It's Sunday. He's probably sleeping in. All right. Pikachu would like to go with 10.
It was 6. Sorry, Pikachu.
Okay. Sorry, Peaks. Good idea, man.
All right. Well, that was one way to end a podcast, wasn't it?
Probably ended for good. Anybody that's going to watch, we've just lost everyone we know. Shadowless Jack, CyberX Collection, you know what I mean? Craig, Catch 'em All Collective, every single one. Heaven Clevin guy that said it was a nice podcast. I mean, we've lost everybody at this point.
Yeah, we do actually have to stop now because the software is about to hit its recording limit. So we do have to be done. Thankfully, that is the end of the podcast. We hope people did enjoy. Leave us some comments. Enter the giveaway. I don't know. Just tell us what you liked or didn't like about this one.
Yes.
The usual.
And if you didn't know what a hexagon was, or you did, don't blame Pikachu. He's just a cute little yellow guy.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Koffee Talks with Dan Norton and David Persin, featuring music by More Than Never and artwork by Laura Norton. A special shout out to all of our Patreon members. Join us again next time.
But they don't want you to.